33,150. There's a look at the scorecard there from the first half, and that has good viewing on it from a Galway point of view. Everybody from midfield up scoring from play in that first half. The thing about it though, Eddie Brennan, is, and one of you lads were saying it here at half time, it's more like a challenge match than a championship match. You know, open play, some lovely scores, certainly no kind of, you know, hardline tactics that we've come to see in so many hurling matches these days.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the score that probably typifies it really, and again, it's at the start of a match, it would really set the tone, is Jason Flynn's goal. I mean, he sailed right through the heart of the Cork defence, and we talked about, or Jonathan Glynn, and we talked about, you know, having Ellis back there, and Liam's going to go into that in a few minutes, but in general, there's been some lovely score taken, but it has really lacked that bite that you say, today it's lights out for 1E. And you'd say it probably has been played on Galway's terms a fair bit during this match. Cork are really on the ropes here, they're hanging in, and had Galway been a little bit more clinical in front of goal, they could have had another couple of scores. Like Joe Canning has had 4 wides on his own, so I think Cork would be glad to get into the dressing room. We said that in the first match that Derek McGrath was glad to get his troops in. Well, I said Jimmy Barry Murphy is glad to get his troops in to try to get them organised. They seem, their backs are all over the place at the moment.
Liam, the game had already started and Galway were on the score sheet, and what a goal this was.
Yeah, it was a fantastic goal, but again, very, very poor defence. I think, you know, Cork have been very, very poor defensively all day, you know. I mean, they just weren't set up, and to be honest with you, you know, they haven't dealt with this at all. You know, you see Jonathan Lynn getting the ball, like he's a long ways from goal. And look at this, like, it's like the whole thing just opens up all in front of him, and, you know, like, man and ball, one doesn't pass, you know. That's the simple rule, you know what I mean? He's just hopped the ball over his head, you know. I mean, it's a nightmare, but watch Jonathan Lynn here, watch where he comes from. Picks up the ball inside his own 65, you know. And again, you know, Shane O'Neill, critical for defenders to stay on their feet, because he plays himself out of the game here. He goes down and he plays out of the game, but again, he just backs off. And straight away the whole thing opens up, and Jonathan Dane is nearly looking around saying, is this for real? You know what I mean? And they're all now having to force their way back in. You know, you will not get that space, you know, in inter-county games. You shouldn't get that space. But full credit to Jonathan Dane. Finished it really well. But I mean, defensively, like Cork in that first half have been extremely naive in defence. They've no pattern to their play. None of their defenders are winning their personal battles. They're 115 to 14 points down. How they're in this game is beyond me. I mean, Galway have poked some amazing wides in that first half. This game should be over.
But I'd
9
say,
wides in actual fact.
I'd say as well as that though, they thought that they were in for a physical battle in the forwards, and they'd set themselves up for a physical battle. Whereas it's the movement and the pace of Galway, especially of the 3 men we mentioned at the start, the lively fellas, that's what really has caught them out. And then all Cork's old failings they had for the last 3 years, backs hopeless in the tackle, that's like Austin Gleeson's goal here last year. Remember the first round of the championship? Straight in the very same way.
Yeah.
And they've been cleaned out in the air as well. So they're in right trouble. They're very lucky to be just 4 points
But you
behind.
wonder sometimes, is that because of you're coming from a system where you play backs as their normal role? The last day they went to a sweeper system, is it an overload of information and now they're a little bit confused as to what do we actually do, because maybe they set up to work with the extra man and there's a little bit of disarray about who's marking who?
Well, I suppose whatever about the tactics of it, Eddie, the system as we've seen in that first 35 minutes has given us some lovely scores. Let's have a look at a couple of Galway points first.
Yeah, Galway,
they've taken some sweet scores.
They have. It's been a breath of fresh air. The first fella, Jason Flynn, who absolutely beautiful stick work. Lovely point on the run, a short little wristy one, shortens up his hurl, and again he's at the heart of everything, creating one as well. Plenty of vision around him, and this fella has really had a superb first half. Cathal Mannion, very good points. He's picked off 5 other, and he's playing kind of around the centre forward mark, and he's given Cork a terrible time on his own. We've a bit of a hook here, but young Whelan, who's on his championship debut, and he has done well. I thought he has grafted hard, and he finishes a good point here when it looked unlikely maybe he was going to get smothered out of it. And then this one here has really capped it off for the Galway forwards. Jason Flynn again getting in a superb hook. Turnover, they were just after getting a point, and Cathal Mannion nails on another one. So that's a 2-point swing when Cork had an opportunity at the other end of the field. And you'd have to say, that you said it yourself there, they have 8 points from midfield up. Everyone is involved, and you take in the few wides, even if they added 2 or 3 of them. You know, Cork are
gasping. The extraordinary thing about it is, you know, Galway have racked up a good score in that first half, and so few of them have come from Joe Canning. Ger, we all know if Cork get the ball into their attack, they have some lethal fellas up front, and they can score.
Without a doubt, and 14 points is a good score and a half of a game. Like, if you double that, you have 28 points. You usually win a game, you know. And the usual suspects here, Conor Lehane, not doing much from play, but once he gets a chance, he's able to put it over the bar. That's the great thing about Lehane. The same with Horgan. They have forwards like that who can, they can live off scraps. And next thing you say, they're not in the game at all, but they have 14 points scored. Now, look at a lot of scramble ball around the middle of the field. Great Daniel Carney now, he started off very well. This is a great ball to him here. He has 2 points got. His movement from the middle of the field is very, very good. But you know, Daniel, he usually fades out of the game in the second half, you know. So he's in and out of the game. Mark Ellis, another point for Cork there. But, like, there is no penetration in that Cork forward line. Colm Cannon could have brought a picnic with him. He hasn't got a ball in. He hasn't. No ball has gone into him even. Not to talk of being threatened.
Yeah.
He hasn't even got to deal with a ball.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Cork there. They're picking off soft points from out of the field, but there is no cutting edge, no real danger inside there. And unless they wake up, as Eddie has said there, unless they wake up, this is going to slip away.
The funny thing is, though, they're not far away.
No,
Either 4 points,
points.
nothing in
Of course,
hurling.
no,
So they're
Galway have
hanging in
left
there.
them in the game, you see. Yeah.
All right, lads, it's time for us to take another break here in Thurles. The second half of Galway and Cork is coming up right after that.